In the 5th year of my marriage to Gu Chang, the affair he had with a girl he kept in a hotel was exposed, and everyone knew about it. To prevent her from being labeled as the other woman, Gu Chang brought me the divorce papers and said, "Teacher Jian helped me in the past," and on his deathbed, he asked me to take care of Jianxi. Now that this has come to light, I cannot ignore it. Over the years, Jianxi was always Gu Chang's first choice. In my past life, when I heard this, I broke down completely, made a huge scene, and refused to divorce. It wasn't until I was diagnosed with severe depression that Gu Chang, influenced by Jianxi's words that I didn't seem sick, concluded I was faking it. Believing I was trying to manipulate him and setting a trap to accuse me of infidelity, he filed for divorce directly. That's when I realized I could never compete with someone he felt indebted to. And, in despair, I took my own life. When I opened my eyes again, I signed the divorce papers without hesitation. "Chu Tang, after this matter is settled, can we remarry?" I was sitting absent-mindedly on a stone bench in the courtyard of the villa when Gu Han, accompanied by Jianxi, approached me. Just 3 hours earlier, Jianxi had been exposed by paparazzi as potentially being Gu Han's lover. The entire internet was digging into her past, cursing her as the homewrecker who intruded into my sweet relationship with Gu Han. Gu Han's loving husband persona had completely collapsed, and the stock prices of Gu Corporation began to fluctuate. In my past life, when Gu Han brought the divorce papers to me, I was so furious that I tore out all the roses he had planted for me in the yard and hysterically questioned him about his relationship with Jianxi. He was merely the daughter of a mentor, and there were a million other ways he could have handled the situation, but he chose to sacrifice me just to prevent Jianxi's depression from worsening. What Gu Han didn't know was that during the time this scandal was brewing, I too was diagnosed with moderate depression. "Chu Tang," Gu Han called me again, bringing me back to the present. I looked down, my gaze falling on the divorce papers on the stone table. He knelt on one knee at my feet, his deep eyes looking up at me, his warm palms enveloping my hands. His tone was coaxing. "Chu Tang, do it for me, okay? We'll announce to the public that our marriage has been in name only for over a year now, and we've been planning to divorce but just hadn't found the right moment." I didn't respond immediately. Behind him, Jianxi, in a white dress and wearing Gu Han's jacket over her shoulders, had pale lips and red-rimmed eyes. "Chu Tang, please help me," she pleaded. "My mother committed suicide due to depression caused by cyberbullying. I don't want to follow in her footsteps. Sister, I'm kneeling to you. Please help me." As she was about to kneel, Gu Han quickly stood up and helped her, then protectively pulled her into his arms. With a grim expression, he whispered sternly, "What are you doing?" Jianxi choked up, her voice frail and tearful, then lowered her tear-filled eyes. I just wanted to make it easier for you, sister." Gu Han's brows furrowed with impatience as he looked at me, the affection in his eyes completely fading. "Chu Tang, I'm not here to discuss this with you. I've already decided on this matter, and if you're unwilling to divorce, then don't blame me." I calmly met his gaze, and his next words stopped short, but I knew what he was going to say. He was about to say, "Chu Tang, you know what I'm capable of. I have a million ways to make you sign willingly." He was about to escalate to filing for divorce. "You can't possibly win against the Gu family's lawyers." Those were his exact words in my past life. And later I was set up to be caught in bed with several male models, solidifying evidence of my infidelity. Overnight, I became branded as an adulterous woman, enduring all the public scorn, and he, along with Jianxi, emerged as the innocent victims. "I'll sign, but you have to agree to one thing," I said after a long pause. Gu Han looked up at me, nodded in agreement, and handed me a pen. I took it and signed my name on the divorce papers without any hint of emotion. "Aren't you going to look at the agreement?" Gu Han asked, frowning. I smiled. "No need." He was practically left with nothing, giving me all his property, all for Jianxi, to repay a debt of gratitude. "Let's make time to visit the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow." "Okay," I said. Gu Han's hand paused slightly as he held the divorce papers, his eyes looking lost for a moment, but ultimately, he said nothing. As they left, Jianxi turned back to give me a mocking look, her thin lips silently mouthing, "You lost, and I did lose. I lost a lifetime, so now I didn't want to lose anymore." A short while later, my phone lit up with a message from Gu Han. "Today was hard on you, Chu Tang. I'm sorry. After this is over, I will give you a grand wedding ceremony, and we'll remarry. I can't just watch Jianxi's depression worsen. You understand, right?" Reading his message, I couldn't help but laugh, tears in my eyes. It was the same in my past life. Gu Han, in an effort to force me into divorce, conspired with his friends while drunk, but he forgot that his friends were also my friends. Jiang Yuan earnestly advised Gu Han not to sacrifice his own marriage for Jianxi, and yet, he also mediated with me, trying to make me sympathize with Gu Han, describing him as a man of great loyalty. Back then, it was Jianxi's father who saw potential in Gu Han, investing in him and helping him start his business. Without that, Gu Han wouldn't be where he was today. At that time, crying, I argued. Gu Han could clarify this matter in 1,000 different ways, so why must it lead to divorce? Jiang Yuan fell silent. He had asked Gu Han, who had said, I have to disappoint someone. I can only let Chu Tang suffer because she loves me and can understand me, because I loved him. I had to be the one to sacrifice. What kind of reasoning was that? Fortunately, I still had a chance. Whenever it came to anything about Jianxi, Guhan always handled it particularly quickly. He had just signed the divorce papers with me by day, and by night, he had arranged a press conference, having his assistant invite me to attend to clarify things. I hadn't even spoken yet. Thinking I would refuse, his assistant luckily relayed Guhan's message to me. Miss Chu Tang, you should attend this press conference, if not for Mr. Gu, then for your own reputation, he said. I paused for a second, then let out a scoff. Guhan was threatening me. He was trying to use the same tactics from my past life to force me into a corner, to tarnish my reputation and leave me struggling under public scrutiny. In the end, I would have no choice but to bow and yield. I had never quite understood why. Does Guhan really see me as his wife? Or as his enemy? Now he wants to publicly clarify our relationship. I am no exception. The press conference was arranged in the most luxurious hotel lobby in northern Beijing, and the invitees were the most influential journalists in the industry. When Jianxi, dressed in a cheongsam, appeared arm in arm with Guhan, the reporters swarmed them instantly. Guhan instinctively protected Jianxi behind him, smiling as he blocked the microphones for her. Please wait, I will answer all your questions one by one. Can you please make some room now? His voice was gentle, and as he looked up, he caught sight of me, also surrounded by reporters. When our eyes met, I faintly hoped that Guhan would extricate me as well, but the next second, he casually shifted his gaze away, smiling as he led Jianxi to the stage, as if he had never seen me. I smirked sarcastically. The reporter nearest to me, likely an intern, timidly handed me the microphone, asking, Miss Chu Tang, did you really divorce Mr. Gu? Yes, I replied with a smile and a nod. The intern adjusted his glasses. But you and Mr. Gu met in high school, dated for 7 years, and were married for 5 years. Last month, Mr. Gu even spent a fortune to buy you an island named after you. I continued to smile, though my eyes did not reflect the same cheerfulness. That was what he owed me. For missing my birthday to take care of the sick Jianxi, it was a make-up gift. In my past life, I took pride in this gesture, only to later discover that it was Jiang Yuan's idea. The island was picked by Guhan's assistant, and he didn't even know where the island was. Do you still love Mr. Gu now? She looked at me nervously, and the surrounding reporters quieted down. Even Guhan on stage was looking at me. He slightly furrowed his brow. I merely glanced at him calmly and said with a smile, not anymore. The interview didn't last until the end. After Guhan clarified that our marriage had been in name only a year ago, I left the scene. Overnight, I became Guhan's unwanted second-hand goods, and Jianxi became the only innocent victim in this public controversy. The interview topped social media for several days, with the topic remaining hot, especially the words spoken by Guhan. Chu Tang and I had planned to divorce a year ago, but the timing wasn't right. We intended to handle it quietly, but now it has affected an innocent person, so we had no choice but to clarify publicly. Miss Jianxi is not the homewrecker of our relationship. She is the only concern of my teacher in this world. It's only right for me to take care of her, and I hope everyone can view this matter rationally. Some fans were led to believe that the reason for the rupture of my relationship with Guhan was that I could not tolerate a pure sibling-like bond, and I misinterpreted their so-called kindness. They also said I was petty, not magnanimous enough. Despite 5 years of marriage, I hadn't learned a bit of Guhan's loyalty and righteousness. The topic fermented for several days. I became the target of public criticism. After collecting the divorce certificate from the Civil Affairs Bureau, Guhan stopped me. Don't take to heart what's said online, it won't be long before everyone forgets. I stopped in my tracks, unable to help but let out a light laugh. 5, 6, 7. ICU, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14. Being similarly insulted on social media. Why is the difference so stark? Chu Tang, it's almost New Year in 2 months. How about we remarry at the beginning of next year? He looked at me, about to approach, but I stepped back. My expression indifferent as my gaze shifted to the reporters blocked by the bodyguards not far away. Guhan seemed to realize something was amiss and stopped where he was. Guhan, I'm going back to Harbor City. You haven't been back in a long time. It's good to go back. I'll come to pick you up for the new year. I'm not coming back, I said calmly, cutting off Guhan. His smile froze, confusion flickering in his eyes. I continued, when I agreed to sign the divorce papers. You promised me something. It's time to fulfill it. Guhan stared at me blankly. When I was reborn, it took me only a few seconds to reconcile the love and hatred I felt for Guhan. The moment I saw the divorce papers, I thought about tearing them up and causing a scene, but in the end, reason prevailed. After a while, I smiled slightly. Guhan, I hope you never appear in front of me again. After Chu Tang finished speaking with a smile and retreated into the crowd, Guhan was slow to react. For a moment, he felt an inexplicable panic, as if he was about to lose something very important, just like the day Chu Tang calmly signed the divorce papers. Feeling a vague unease, she didn't make a fuss. It seemed she had foreseen all the outcomes. Just recently, Chu Tang had made a huge fuss because he forgot her birthday, and he even got slapped by her. He thought it was a sham divorce. Chu Tang would go crazy and cause a scene. He was even prepared for it, but she didn't. Picking up the pen, her expression was as still as dead water. At that moment, he thought about stopping Chu Tang, but in the end, he did nothing. He thought it didn't matter. Chu Tang loved him. It was just a fake divorce, and he would make it up to her later. But it wasn't the same with Jianxi. She couldn't suffer any harm. If it weren't for Jianxi's father recognizing his talent, risking being ousted by the shareholders to invest in his project, and helping him grow into one of the emerging elite in Jingbei, he wouldn't have achieved today's successes, nor would he be worthy of Jianxi. On Jianxi's father's deathbed, he hoped Gu Han would ensure Jianxi's life was safe and well. He didn't want to be a treacherous villain. Jiang Yuan once asked him, if one day, Jianxi and Chu Tang both fell into a cliff, who would you save? He laughed then, thinking the question was absurd. He would save Jianxi, but he would die with Chu Tang. Jiang Yuan laughed with him, but then he asked himself, what if Chu Tang doesn't want to die? Gu Han, you can't just because Chu Tang likes you, always take her for granted. If she can't feel your love, she will also despair. That day he dismissed it. He never took those words to heart. Unexpectedly, in the end, they came true. In the night, Gu Han returned to the villa once again. Since marrying him, Chu Tang had always lived in the villa on the mid-mountain. She was an outstanding painter, crowned a prodigious young artist at the age of 10 for her transcendent landscape painting, and everyone felt her mastery in traditional Chinese painting was extraordinary, destined to excel in this field. Which indeed she did. Only after marriage, Chu Tang's style of painting had changed. No longer as before, Chu Tang's teacher had tried to guide her with dedication, but the impact was minimal. Eventually, Chu Tang gave up painting and even resisted picking up a paintbrush. Gu Han entered Chu Tang's studio. He paused for a moment when he saw the landscape painting on the easel. The painting was vivid, though rendered in just a few strokes. When Chen's mother saw the light on in the studio and noticed Gu Han, she was slightly surprised and greeted him. Sir. Gu Han looked up. When did my wife paint this? Chen's mother responded. The day you came back with Miss Jian. Gu Han nodded, his lips curving into a smile that he couldn't bring himself to complete. After leaving the studio, he returned to the room he shared with Chu Tang, reminding himself repeatedly that their divorce was only a pretense. Once the storm passed, he planned to propose to Chu Tang again and give her a grand wedding, but somehow, his heart still felt empty. He dismissed everything Chu Tang had said in anger today as mere nonsense. Their home was in Beijing North. How could she not return? Knock, knock. The door to the master bedroom suddenly sounded. Gu Han, sitting at the foot of the bed, looked up to see Jianxi. She stood at the doorway in her thin clothes, her face slightly flushed, quietly watching Gu Han. Why are you here? Jianxi pursed her lips. I was scared staying alone in the hotel, so I came to find you. Is that so? She spoke, eyes downcast. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Gu Han frowned slightly but replied, it's okay, it's getting late. I'll ask Chen's mother to prepare a guest room for you to stay in, he said as he was about to call for her. Jianxi stepped forward into the room, her eyes soft and pleading as she looked at Gu Han. Brother Han, I don't want to stay in the guest room. Is that okay? She asked softly. Gu Han's frown deepened. He was about to refuse, but seeing her reddened eyes, he softened. When my plane landed in the city, it was Xin Chu who came to pick me up, years ago. At 18, he saved a girl but was falsely accused of assault and sentenced to 3 years. With a criminal record, no company was willing to hire him. I met him at an art exhibition. He never interacted with others, always keeping his gaze down. If people approached him, he would just shy away. One night, as I was heading home, I encountered some thugs and was nearly assaulted, but he happened to pass by. I thought he would just watch indifferently, but he didn't hesitate for a moment. That day I asked him, what if I turned on you too? He just gave a bitter smile. Then I'd accept it. With my family's influence, I helped clear his name, and on the day the truth was revealed, he stood at a distance, eyes red, bowing in thanks as he looked at me. 3 years in prison hadn't eroded his kindness. My father, grateful for his act of saving me, extended an olive branch and arranged for him to join the company. Starting from the bottom, he is now one of my father's most trusted aides. Miss, it's been a long time, Xin Chu said, wearing a trench coat as he took my suitcase. I nodded, feeling a strange tinge of sourness at the tip of my nose. 5 years ago, I married Gu Han and moved north with him. At the time of my accident, he was sent by my father to Country A for a closed training session. I never saw Xin Chu again until my death. Miss, are you planning to leave again after this return? He asked me. I replied, no, I'm not leaving. Xin Chu chuckled. Mr. Chu knows you're back and he's very happy about it. Suddenly, I felt a momentary shock, my hand tightened in my pocket, and a tinge of bitterness colored my heart. By then, my divorce with Gu Han had become public knowledge. Worried that I would be wronged, My father flew from the port city to Jingbei overnight. He tried to persuade me earnestly. Guhan never really thinks things through. He chose to collaborate with the old man from the Jian family instead of accepting your help. To put it nicely, he didn't want to rely on you. But isn't he still relying on someone by taking the Jian family's investment? Xiao Tang, it's over, and Guhan isn't right for you. He wanted to take me back to the port city, but I refused. Crying and insisting on staying, through tears, I said, I love Guhan, I don't want a divorce, why should I sacrifice myself for his gratitude, even if it kills me? I absolutely won't leave, I'm not going anywhere, eventually. My father was so upset by my stubbornness that he suffered a heart attack and was rushed to the ICU, receiving several critical condition notices. Overnight, my mother's hair turned white. When my father woke up, he said nothing, but I knew he was disappointed in me. As my mother was leaving, she still tried to persuade me, your father has never interfered with any of your decisions over the years, but Guhan is not a good man. At that time, I wouldn't listen to anything and stubbornly continued on my destructive path. It cost me dearly to finally understand, I wasn't that important to Guhan. Are they all doing well? I asked Sin Chu. Sin Chu nodded, the group is developing very well, Mr. Chu and his wife are also very healthy. I smiled and met his cold gaze. Thank you, Sin Chu. Thank you for fulfilling my filial duties on my behalf. Sin Chu shook his head. He said it was his duty. If it hadn't been for my father and I helping him out back then, he might have died in some forgotten corner long ago. On social media, hot topics continue to emerge relentlessly. From Jianxi being Guhan's mistress, it has now turned into accusations of me being heartless and ungrateful. Yesterday, paparazzi caught a photo of me and Sin Chu at the airport. Now they're saying that I had an affair long ago, which is why my relationship with Guhan fell apart. I couldn't help but laugh when I saw, as I lowered my eyes, the phone screen showed a photo sent by Jianxi from a burner account. A photo of her spending the night at the mountain villa. Last night Guhan asked me to stay over. What do you think he'll do tonight? Guhan is a very responsible person, now that the shackles are gone. Xiao Tang, your husband is mine now. She tried to provoke me, but my heart was already still. Sin Chu poured me a cup of tea and glanced worriedly at my phone screen, saying in a deep voice, Miss, I will reclaim the justice for the grievances you've suffered. I didn't respond to him, but instead asked, I heard your father introduced several distinguished young ladies to you, intending for you to settle down. Why did you refuse? Sin Chu seemed surprised by my question, his eyes lowered, his fingertips rubbing the rim of the teacup. After a long silence, I asked again, is it because of me? He suddenly looked up, meeting my gaze before guiltily looking away. Though I hadn't seen Sin Chu in 5 years, every birthday, I received a generous gift from him. He lavished money freely, and from time to time, he transferred money into my account. He gave me almost everything he earned. I refused many times, but he persisted. Finally, I called him and for the first time, I lost my temper with him. I said, Sin Chu, you saved me once, and I helped you once. We're even. It was your father who let you into the company, but you've gotten to where you are today on your own. You don't owe me anything. I'm not your creditor, and by doing this, you're only endangering my marriage and causing Guhan to misunderstand our relationship. After that, Sin Chu stopped transferring money to me. His gifts were also just symbolic gestures. Sin Chu, I've told you that you don't owe me anything. No sooner had I finished speaking than Sin Chu pursed his lips and said, no, what? He looked at me, a slight smile playing on his lips, his face calm, his eyes filled with affection. I adore you, miss. I know I'm worlds apart from you, miss. I've never dared to hope that you would look back at me, but my heart belongs to you, and I don't want to lie to myself or hold anyone else back. As Sin Chu's voice trailed off, I looked at him quietly. He was the same age as me, but much more mature. When I first saw him, he was timid and out of place. Now, he has become a pillar of the company, the most valued person by my father. Last night, when I returned to the old mansion, my father talked with me for a long time about the future of the company, my future. Finally, he asked me 2 questions. The first was, do you still like Guhan? I shook my head, giving a negative answer, but to the second question, I remained silent. He asked me, would you be willing to marry Sin Chu? My father is planning to retire, and although Sin Chu has been with my father for many years, he is not originally from our family. I was somewhat confused at first, but now I also have an answer. Sin Chu, will you marry me? 2 days later, in northern Beijing, Guhan sat in the studio, looking down at the day when Chu Tang accepted that intern's interview. Curiously, the intern asked her, do you still love Mr. Gu? Chu Tang smiled and responded, not anymore. Those simple 3 words, however, stirred an inexplicable oppression in him. He replayed that clip countless times, trying to find something in Chu Tang's eyes, but to no avail. Frustrated, he pulled up his chat with Chu Tang. only to realize that the last message stopped when he reminded her to pick up the divorce certificate at the Civil Affairs office at 9 o'clock, to which she replied with a simple okay, and then there was nothing. Chu Tang used to stick to him, sharing everything with him big or small, and he would respond in time. He scrolled back through the records. Later, many times, it was just Chu Tang talking to herself. Occasionally, he would reply briefly with an "ah okay," or "I know." Work at the company was busy. After teacher Jian passed away, Jianxi suffered from depression and repeatedly attempted suicide. He simply couldn't manage everything. Suddenly, Jiang Yuan sent a message: Chu Tang is getting married to Xin Chu. Gu Han stood up abruptly, accidentally knocking over a nearby easel. As he hurried to pick it up, a medical report was pressed under the drawing board. He paused for a second, and when he read all the content, his fingertips trembled. The patient exhibits severe emotional fluctuations, with recurring suicidal thoughts. He was suffering from severe sleep disorders, and upon evaluation, it was determined that he had tendencies of moderate depression. That marked the date when he proposed a fake divorce to Chu Tang, brother Han. What happened? Jianxi, hearing the commotion, hurried from the master bedroom to the studio. When she saw the medical report in Gu Han's hands, a scheming glint passed through her eyes. "Can I take a look at this report?" Jianxi asked softly. Gu Han didn't say anything, only feeling a recurring pain in his chest. She took the opportunity to grab the medical report, flipped through a few pages, then feigned relief, patting Gu Han on the shoulder and comforting him. "Brother Han, don't worry, brother. Have you forgotten? I also suffer from depression. You've seen what it's like when I have an episode. I saw your sister the other day. She looked so healthy. Not at all like she was ill. Maybe she was just too angry and used a fake medical report to deceive you." Jianxi looked at Gu Han, just as she was about to continue. Gu Han, pressing down his emotions, took the report back from her hands. He had just walked a few steps when something occurred to him, and he turned back to her. "After tomorrow, you shouldn't stay in the master bedroom. Chu Tang will make a fuss if she finds out." After he spoke, Jianxi stood frozen in place. By the time she reacted and chased after him, brother Han, Gu Han had already gone downstairs. In such a hurry he even forgot his coat. Regardless of whether the medical report was real or fake, regardless of whether Chu Tang was going to marry Xin Chu, at that moment, his only thought was to see Chu Tang and bring her back home. Xin Chu took our wedding very seriously, personally overseeing every detail. By day he would rush between the company and the wedding venue. By night, he sat in the living room, painstakingly writing invitations. "Xin Chu, you should let the assistant handle these matters. You're already so busy with work. There's no need to go to all this trouble," I said, holding a cup at the top of the stairs. Looking down at him in the living room, he put down his pen, smiled warmly at me, and said, "No matter what, I want to give the best to the lady. I know I might not be in the lady's heart, but she is at the very top of mine." The moment our eyes met, I was momentarily dazed. My heart stirred for the first time in a long while. "Lady, don't feel burdened, just be the beautiful bride." Xin Chu continued to smile, his gaze not hiding his feelings any longer. Finally, I smiled back and nodded. What I hadn't anticipated was that Gu Han would find his way to Harbor City. Just as Xin Chu and I were coming out after trying on the wedding attire, I saw Gu Han standing under an opposite camphor tree. He was dressed in a simple white shirt, his hair disheveled, his face slightly pale, devoid of any sparkle in his eyes. His gaze lingered on Xin Chu's and my intertwined hands for a moment before shifting away. Gu Han forced a smile and looked at me. "Chu Tang, I've come to take you back home. Let's not wait until next year. How about we go back now and remarry?" As he spoke, he took a few steps towards us. Xin Chu instinctively moved to shield me, but I stopped him. I straightened his slightly crooked tie and said softly, "Go wait for me in the car. I'll be back soon. Mom made your favorite dish tonight. Let's go home together later." Xin Chu looked down at me, a slight smile on his lips, and replied, "Okay." He then glanced briefly at Gu Han before walking towards the direction of the garage. At that moment, it was just Gu Han and me left by the roadside. He subconsciously moved closer to me, but I discreetly stepped back a few paces and softly said, "Mr. Gu, let's keep some distance between us, otherwise the paparazzi might catch us. Then there will be rumors on social media about me endlessly entangling with my ex-husband. No matter when, people always seem to be particularly harsh on women. The incident with Jianxi is a prime example." It was clear that Gu Han was the indecisive one from start to finish, yet in the end, I was blamed for not being magnanimous enough. "Chu Tang, Gu Han's eyes dimmed, a bitter smile not reaching his eyes. "I've already had my assistant handle the situation on the platform. I'm sorry you had to suffer. I didn't know you were facing so much trouble." "I didn't know, Gu Han, you knew." I looked at him and spoke in a flat tone. If he hadn't known that public opinion could be so painful and depressing, he wouldn't have chosen to divorce me to help Jianxi. In my past life, I was framed for having affairs with several male models, and after being divorced from Gu Han, my reputation was ruined, and my career plummeted. Everyone mocked me, some even confronted me saying, Chutang, after being ruined by your ex-husband like this, how can you still have the face to live? If it were me, I would have jumped from the 18th floor, and Mrs. Guhan never really cared about her, otherwise how could he have driven her to death? Later, I suffered from insomnia night after night, sitting by the floor-to-ceiling windows watching the lights of thousands of homes. I burned down my studio. Everything Guhan gave me was also burned, as if by doing so I could carve him out of my heart. I vented all the injustice I hated. Why the boy who once filled my heart and eyes would lead me to a dead end. Eventually, I committed suicide by wrist cutting. To this day, I still remember the feeling of blood slowly draining from my body. Guhan opened his mouth to explain, but the words wouldn't come out. In the end, he could only lower his head helplessly. Atang, I will make it up to you. I couldn't help but laugh. I had heard that too many times before, after Jianshi's father passed away. On the night of Guhan's engagement banquet, he left saying, Chutang, Jianxi has run into some trouble, I need to go see her. On the day of the wedding, Jianxi attempted suicide again, and after sending me back to the bridal room, he didn't return all night. At that time, I wavered whether to continue this relationship, but seeing Guhan's exhausted appearance, I endured it. I loved Guhan, so I was willing to accompany him through all the hardships. Every broken promise eventually turned into, Chutang, I will make it up to you properly in the future. Guhan always thought we had a lifetime ahead of us, but he forgot that love can be exhausted. In the last life, until the end, I could no longer tell if I loved Guhan, or if it was just obsession. After a while, I said sarcastically, Guhan, actually what I wanted was very little, but you still couldn't care for me. I am also the treasure cherished by my parents. Why should I let you trample on me? So let's just forget it. As I finished speaking, I looked away and was about to leave when Guhan frantically grabbed my arm. His tall body nearly stumbled and fell. His pale thin lips parted. I don't agree. It can't just end like this. Chutang, you are my wife. You can't leave me. His voice trembled at the end. I laughed, pulled out my hand. We are already divorced. Guhan, he was forced to step down from his position at the company. The divorce papers you forced me to sign, the threats to make me attend a press conference to clear things up, and the way you watched me go to the civil affairs office to get the divorce certificate, all of this was your doing. You can't deny that, right? Guhan was rendered speechless. I needed to leave. As he tried to follow me again, I nodded slightly towards the direction behind him. Mr. Gu, actually, you and Miss Jen are quite a match. Guhan's face turned pale instantly. He arrived in Harbor City in the early morning. After his assistant found Chutang's itinerary, he came to find her without resting for a moment. However, when he saw her in a wedding dress, laughing and playing with Sinchu, he gradually slowed down his steps and just stood there under the camphor tree, watching. He couldn't remember when he last saw Chutang laugh so freely. Every time they met, they would end up arguing because of Jianxi, and gradually, he stopped going home often, either staying overnight at the company or drinking with Jiang Yuan and others all night long. So, at that moment, he was painfully aware. The words Chutang said at the civil affairs office that day came from her heart. She didn't want him anymore, but he couldn't live without her. He stood outside the bridal shop for as long as the two were busy inside. He even thought about rushing in to beat Sinchu up, warning him, don't covet my wife, but in the end, he couldn't take that step. He was afraid Jianxi would hate him. Brother Han, sister has been gone for a long time. Jianxi tugged at Guhan's sleeve, bringing him back from his reverie. He looked down at her, his voice hoarse. Why are you here? I heard sister is going to marry someone else. I was worried you'd be upset. So I came to see you, she said softly, just about to embrace Guhan when he furrowed his brows and placed his hand on Jianxi's shoulder. In a moment, her eyes became moist. Brother Han, sister doesn't want you, but I do. Let's get married, shall we? Guhan had never refused her any request before. She had thought that after Chutang divorced him, she could easily take the place of Mrs. Gu, but at that moment, Guhan's expression suddenly turned cold. Jianxi, do you know what you're saying? I know, Guhan, I like you. It was the first time she openly expressed her feelings. Guhan, however, gave a pained smile, and as he smiled, tears began to flow. Jiang Yuan had warned him countless times, Jianxi's gaze towards you is unsettling. If you don't want your marriage to be destroyed, it's better to send her away. Guhan, you are blinded by the situation, unable to see Jianxi's true intentions. Send Jianxi away, don't let her ruin your marriage. Yet he never believed it, he really deserved it. Jianxi, in an unexpected turn, directed and performed a scandalous act. She hired people to take photos of her and Guhan entering and exiting a hotel together and then bought cyber troops to spread rumors about herself being the other woman. Social media erupted into chaos. Guhan was overwhelmed with stress. He had planned to send Jianxi abroad, but upon seeing the trending topic, he nearly strangled her on the roadside. He confronted her, demanding, why would you do this? Initially, Jianxi tried to appeal to his emotions. But as she was being choked, struggling to breathe, she suddenly laughed maniacally and openly admitted, I just wanted to be Mrs. Gu and force Chu Tang and you to divorce, Guhan, if you truly loved Chu Tang. I wouldn't have had a chance. Enraged, Guhan vomited blood and fainted on the spot. The incident was caught on video by passers-by and went viral online. Gu Corporation's stock plummeted, and Guhan, upon waking, was confused and was promptly ousted from his CEO position. As for Jian Shi, now disgraced, she had no choice but to leave the country. Unfortunately, on her way to the airport, she died in a car accident. On my wedding day, Sinchu gave me a grand wedding. The city adorned with flowers and fireworks all night, known to everyone. When a guest joked that marrying Sinchu was the blessing of my past life, Sinchu scoffed and had the person removed from the wedding. He then boldly declared during the vows, I am the son-in-law of the Chu family. In this life, I belong to the Chu family, and in death, I will be the Chu family's ghost. Sinchu knew I might not fully love him, but his treatment of me never wavered. On our wedding night, he held me tightly, as if afraid I would leave or disappear. Only after pressing him did I learn, Guhan had committed suicide. Before dying, he had a lucid moment and sent a medical report left in his studio to Sinchu. He also wrote me a long letter. Every word was filled with his remorse. He also spoke of a nightmare he had. In the dream, he forced me to divorce, and when I refused to compromise, he schemed to have me sent to other men's beds. Eventually, I desperately committed suicide by cutting my wrists. He said that in the dream, it wasn't intentional, he just wanted me to yield, never imagining it would drive me to despair and death. He didn't know that my illness was real. He said if he had known, he would never have treated me that way. Seeing the bathroom filled with blood, his heart broke, wishing he were the one who died. The letter ended with, fortunately, what happened in the dream didn't occur, and another line, I'm sorry. I scoffed. I casually threw the letter and the medical report into the trash. Miss, Sinchu frowned slightly. I softly said, the old Chu Tang was sick, but I am no longer that Chu Tang. Having left him, I also recovered from the illness. After a while, Sinchu smiled helplessly yet affectionately. I looked at him and smiled too. Fortunately, in this life, I haven't lost anything.